Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us all on the 11th night of our Ramadan program. We'll be starting with Hajj Ali Rida reading the Arabic Quran, followed by Imad Khalil reading the English. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها. آمنت بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Surah Al-Shams. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, by the sun and its glory, and the moon as it follows it, and by the day as it reveals the sun's glory, and by the night as it conceals it, and by the sky and its wonderful structure, and by the earth and its vast territory, and by the soul and the proportion and order given to it, and its enlightenment and its wrong and to its right. Truly he succeeds who purifies it, and he fails who corrupts it. The people of Thamud rejected their message by their excessive wrongdoing. Look, the most wicked man among them was chosen for the crime. But the messenger of Allah said to them, it is a she-camel of Allah, and let her have her drink. Then they rejected him as a false prophet, and they injured her by cutting her hamstrings. So their Lord, on account of their crime, removed their traces and made them equal in destruction. And for him there is no fear of its consequences. Sadaqallahu al-Aliyyul Azim. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you, brothers, for the recitation. And now our speaker for tonight, Shah Ibrahim Kazaruni. Let's please give a loud Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله خالق العباد وساطح المهاد ومسيل الوهاد ومخضب النجاد، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله النبي الأمجد سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. Praise be to Allah, creator of people. He has spread the earth and made the streams to flow and the vegetations to grow. We salute the best of Allah's creation, the most noble Prophet, our Prophet, Prophet Muhammad, and his pure progenies. Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. قال الله العظيم في محكم كتابه أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. Indeed, there is an excellent model for you in the Messenger of Allah, for those who have hope in Allah and in the last day, and remember Allah abundantly. Last night, inspired by a question that the brother posed the night before, we addressed a very critical issue that was the notion of dua and supplication and petition that we present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The verse that I recited clearly indicated, or appeared at least to be, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would respond and reply to any petition or supplication or dua that we present. Ad'uni astajib lakum. At least the appearance of the word is quite clear, it's unconditional. And then I touched upon a question that people might have. If there is such a blanket or wide or extensive expectation that we have from prayers, then why is it that some of our prayers are not responded? Where do we go wrong? Is it the verse itself has something that we do not understand? Or is it that there are some prerequisite in prayers that we are not fulfilling? This comes primarily as a consequence of thinking that Allah is sitting there, and every time we offer a prayer, Allah zaps with the remote control and there is the answer. That's the understanding. This is why we become despondent, become critical. I have been praying 15 nights of month of Ramadan, I haven't got any answers, etc., etc. And then at the end I thought that it would be better if we were to present the issue of supplication and petition as a theme to the Holy Quran rather than focus on one particular verse, and see how Quran responds to the theme of prayer. Once we do that, we come across some striking answers. Number one, it is our understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to respond is misplaced, because we see that it is conditional. By certain conditions must be fulfilled, a number of issues must be removed. So these are things that we have to address. And the context of the prayer is also quite clear. When we look at the Holy Quran, we see a number of verses in which the protocol outline, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana, in this way, which clearly indicates that not only there are some spiritual and physical conditions that we have to fulfill. Where do we pray? For what purpose do we pray? And under what circumstance we pray? These are going to have either negative or positive consequences in our prayers. Sinfulness and forgetfulness that we talked repeatedly about it are two conditions that do not go hand in hand with acceptance of the prayer. Last night, because it was the anniversary of the death of al-Mu'mineen Khadija al-Kubra, I stated that I'm going to focus tonight purely on the life of Khadija, the wife of the Holy Prophet. Before I do that, there are a couple of issues that I think would help if we were to explain them. In two places in the Holy Quran, or two chapters at least, the concept of uswa and role model is presented, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly identifies a person or an individual that is worthy of emulating in our life. In Surah Mumtahina, the Holy Prophet Ibrahim is being mentioned, and in Surah Al-Ahzab, our Prophet is being mentioned. In both cases with similar kind of language, that these people are the uswa, the role model for you to imitate or emulate. The concept of role model, those of you who have attended the Sunday program, we briefly, in some of the lectures, we talked about it. Any society, in anything that we do, the presence of role model speeds up the process of, say, advancement. Because now, what the question the brother asked a couple of nights ago, as well as the sister in her writing, if we have families that they have been successful in bringing up children, they can come forward to us and they become the role model, in which we do not need to reinvent the wheel and deal with the shortcomings and repeat the mistakes again and again and again. They can have a prescription that we see immediately, put them into practice to see whether it may succeed. Because at least they are living in the same environment, they are affected by the externalities as much as we are. Their children go to the same school as our children. So if they have succeeded where we have failed, then they are doing something different that we are not doing it. You see similar kind of things at school, universities, and so on. If there are individuals that have been successful businesses, why is it that somebody starts a business and fails within 6 months, another person starts the business and succeeds? What's the modality that they follow? So the presence of role model in society is critical, because we don't need first of all, we will avoid the pitfalls, and secondly, the orientation when it comes to spiritual and so on, the orientation that we need is clearly defined. There is certainly a difference between when Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayha becomes the role model of sisters, our brothers, or say another person that has nothing to do with spirituality and ethics and morality. Each one creates its own or her own or his own orientation that we desperately need. How do we look at the life of al-Mu'mineen Khadija? If we pause here and ask a couple of critical questions. When the name of Khadija is being mentioned, and by the way, this is not unique to Khadija, it goes with others as well, Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayha, or Zainab salamullah alayha, or Imam Hassan, or Imam Hussein, doesn't matter. When the name of a major figure in our history is mentioned, whether it's Khadija or somebody else, what kind of image we conjure in our head or in our mind when the name is stated? It's critical. If we look at Fatima al-Zahra or Zainab or anybody else, if we purely see these individuals from the tragic lens that their life we have hardly any understanding, and we only see them during this unique occasions of, say, Karbala and the last month of Fatima's life, that constantly cried and etc., etc. This gives you one image. And then if you look at her as somebody, a dynamic character, that right from the moment of birth and within few years of her birth, supported her father and was at the center of attention and work within the society. She worked as a mother, she worked as a nurse, she fought, she delivered speeches, etc., etc. This gives us a totally different image. So when the name of Khadija is being mentioned, what do we understand? The more complex the character, the more challenging it is to encapsulate this character into few words and come up with simple definition. This is one difficulty. There is another difficulty here. Over the years, unfortunately, or regrettably, our speakers have created images of these unique characters that they do not tell us exactly who these persons are. These images are very short-lived, narrow, shallow understanding of these images, of these characters. If you purely look at Imam Hussein salawatullah salam alayha in the context of Ashura only, nearly 57 years of work before, of struggle, of teaching, of learning, of being in the midst of society, of working hard, etc., etc., is totally ignored. But if we look at the life as it evolves and see how they work and become a dynamic member of the community that they live in, their challenges, their struggles, their messages, their inspirations, their teachings, and the effect of their parents and grandparents, it's totally different image. When it comes to Khadijatul Kubra, we have both of these challenges. On the one hand, she's a unique character. On the other hand, over many years, an image has been created from Khadija that really does not fit with her character. In some cases, because at least the literature is not available, but we really did not understand the vital role that she played in Islam, and as a consequence, we have some scantily kind of understanding of Khadija. When it comes to Khadija, then who was she? Going back to the question. Certainly, we can either look at some biographical information and say she was born in, which normally we do with the other characters. She was born here, the parents are there, and then jump in the middle, married the Holy Prophet, stayed with the Holy Prophet, and that's it. And she died just a few years before migration. That's one way of looking at it. And there are other ways of looking at it that we try to talk about. If we look at the Holy Quran, certainly in addition to a number of male figures that Quran identifies as worthy of emulation and imitation, there are a number of female names and characters that Quran mentions and stresses upon these individuals. We have Maryam bint Imran, the mother of Prophet Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. Athia, the wife of Pharaoh. Khadijatul Kubra, Fatima al-Zahra, Sarah, the wife of Prophet Ibrahim, the mother and the sister of Prophet Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, Zainab al-Kubra, and so on and so forth. There are various names or characters in both male and female that they have been mentioned. Khadijatul Kubra is identified as one of the four major figures, female figures, that in human history, two of them in Islam, at least two of them identified before. The two before, Maryam bint Imran, the mother of Prophet Isa والسلام, and Athia, the wife of Pharaoh. These two are constantly appear in ahadith. Within Islam, two figures, the mother-daughter figure, Khadijatul Kubra and Fatima Zahra salam. Why is it so special? Certainly, if you look at the span of her life, she was born 55 years before the proclamation, 15 years before Abraha came to attack Kaaba and destroy it. The year of the Abraha was the year that the Holy Prophet was born. So Khadija is older than the Holy Prophet by 15 years. If we look at early life, childhood, hardly any information available, very scarce. Beyond, she was born in Mecca from a Quraysh family. Her father was Khuwaylid bin Asad, and which is a branch of Quraysh, and she is distant cousin to the Holy Prophet because they are from the same family. But then everything goes quiet. How did she grow as a child? Where did she go? What was the area? How did she react to Abraha's attack in Mecca, etc.? We have nothing. Apart from one or two occasions, a confrontation between Khadija's father, Khuwaylid, with Abraha or members of his army. That's it. There is nothing else. I've been trying the past few days to dig, even in academic discussion that we normally have, we take the life of one particular character and we spend huge amount of time trying to dig things up. Hardly anything. I've come across 2 or 3 books in Farsi, which I tried to download it to read it, but unfortunately it wouldn't. So I have to order these. These are recent books that are coming into the market. But in English literature, beyond one book, Turkish author that has written about Khadija's life, hardly anything else. Search for articles, nothing. So this is something that we really need to pay attention to. The absence of information really is harmful to trying to develop a picture of the character that bridges Jahiliyyah and Islam. This is the critical, the vital role that she plays. Most of her life are in Jahiliyyah, before Islam. And then the last 13 years or 14 years of her life, or 12 years of her life, comes into Islam. And then during this period, she suffers huge amount because of the Quraysh and the Jahiliyyah's attempt to destroy Islam completely. How did the transformation take place from Jahiliyyah into Islam? Now, if we move away from her early age, then we come a little bit further, now adolescence, early adolescence, or her adulthood, before the Prophet of Islam. She has been, now literature's become quite available. A noble woman of Quraysh being mentioned in some literature. Successful business person is being addressed. Khadija now becomes the topic of discussion because of her success in business. And she was famous. A moral character, now we're beginning to see a different side of her life being mentioned, to the point that she's been called At-Tahira, the pure. The Holy Prophet is called the truthful. She is being called At-Tahira, the pure one. We begin to see these kind of things coming up more and more into the light of literature. Naturally, when it comes to a character that financially, you're talking about Jahiliyyah, in which the dominant factor that identified somebody was wealth, before we went to tribe or anything else. If then you have a successful woman that her wealth exceeds the whole wealth of Quraysh or anybody else that could be put together, certainly attracts attention. And as a consequence, a number of historians talk about numerous marriage proposals to ask her hand, because You live in a society, your identity and your worth depends on, first of all, the clan that you come from and the wealth that you have. And she combined both of them. She comes from Quraysh, and she is the most successful businesswoman that you can imagine. So this idea is being presented, that a number of marriage proposals come in. She rejected all of them apart from two. Historians claim that before she married the Prophet of Islam, she had two marriages before. The Sunni historians, they say no, all these children that you list, that they are quite few, they are children of the marriage between the Holy Prophet and Khadija. When you add to the concept that she was around 55, when she was around 40 when she met the Holy Prophet, and by the time the whole crisis of Mecca and so on started, some historians say 6, 7 or 8 or 9 children is practically impossible within this 40 to 55 years that one could have these many children. But they say it is, and it's not the time that we want to discuss whether this historic claim is correct or not correct. The Shia scholars, historians claim that no, she had 2 marriages before. From each marriage, she had 1 or 2 children, and then she married the Holy Prophet of Islam. Again, there is a debate whether she only had Fatima from the Holy Prophet or there were 1 or 2 others. Again, we are not going to discuss. I want to focus on the character. When the introduction of the Holy Prophet in her life is critical. The first time that the Holy Prophet is introduced to Khadija is as a business manager that looks after her business. Why? Because Muhammad ﷺ was by then known as a character, trustworthy, truthful, etc., etc. And so he endeavors to start some kind of a business, and those days you could either become a partner with somebody if you didn't have money, or work for somebody else. If you had little bit of money, you could work with a business person as we have it today, and some kind of partnership or joint partnership. If you didn't have money, you had to work for somebody else. So Muhammad approaches Khadija to work for her as a manager. She looks at him, his character and so on, trusts this new young man, around 25, 22, 23, and gives him the opportunity to lead the entire wealth that she has to go to what at that time called Sham, or present Syria, to start a business. She sends her own slave, well known for his business acumen, to go with him. But the idea was to record his behavior as a moral individual or ethical individual. What is he going to do? Upon return, the information was given to Khadija, and she became attracted to this young man. Very quickly, the whole thing goes. So the first introduction that takes place, Muhammad becomes the manager, the business manager for Khadija. And here sparks develop. She finally finds someone of her own inclination as far as morality, ethics, and so on, and from her own family as well. As I said, they are distant cousins from Quraysh. She makes the move, and she proposes, which is unheard of in Arabian culture. And even today, if a girl comes forward and says, I want to propose, immediately we react. You're selling yourself cheap with this kind of mindset. There are issues in Khadija's life that she really was not somebody that did not think about the future. Remember, She was 40 by then. Developed huge amount of successful business and experience in her life. So she saw in the Holy Prophet, and she was extremely wise. They say that Khadija used to organize classes of bringing Jewish and Christian scholars together so that she could listen to the conversation to see how they present their own idea. One of the issues that she was interested upon, how the end of time will come and how the world is going to go to come to an end. Naturally, she was exposed to the idea that another messenger will come, might be a prophet will come, or a Messiah will come, etc., etc. So then she makes a move. She approaches the Holy Prophet, extends her hand, that I sends a representative to the Holy Prophet's uncle, Abu Talib, says it's a marriage proposal. And finally they get together and the whole thing evolves. It's strange that as the second phase, the moment the marriage takes place, all historians, whether they are Sunnis or whether Shias, they say that the marriage soon, very quickly developed into a perfect love story between these two individuals. No wonder some historians say if Ali loved Fatima, the Holy Prophet loved Khadija. Fatima, she brought into this marital relationship, all the sophistication that she had acquired. Purity, acumen, determination, charisma, and she supported her husband fully. Never hesitated. The moment that she sends a messenger to the Prophet's uncle and the knots are tied, she sends her own slave to the Holy Prophet. Everything that I have is for you. And then when Islam comes and so on, she literally spends everything that she has. One historian claims when she died, she was covered with abaya that was too short. Because they wanted to cover her head, her feet was sticking out. Literally gave everything that she had. No wonder the Holy Prophet, whenever her name was mentioned, he became tearful and constantly remembered her. And he said, God has not given me anyone as beneficent as she was. When people denied me, she believed in me. When people deprived me, she supported me. When nobody stood by me, she protected me. Before Fatima comes into the picture, she was the one that would go with him to Masjid al-Haram, and Ali to offer prayer and salat, and typical of Quraysh, they would come and throw ash on top of his head. She was the one that would clean him up. So this life relationship, now she was asked once or twice, why did you marry an orphan? See how it's class structure, an orphan of Bani Hashim. This makes her unique in a sense. Look at what she's looking for. And that makes it critical for our youth as they search for partners. She said, I looked at him and I saw honor. And I liked what I saw. I saw trustworthiness. I saw noble conduct. I saw truthfulness. I saw honor and dignity that he had. Everything else, all these criteria that she mentions are not transient criteria, permanent criteria that we should look for in our partners. Her strong, what we need to assess and analyze, what did she go through, the struggle that she went through. the loyalty that she had, her support for the Holy Prophet, the love and the inspirational relationship that she had with the Holy Prophet. In our youth these days are desperate to find out some kind of direction and orientation. 2 days ago, a marriage took place between two young individuals 2 weeks before. They came back 2 days ago that we want divorce. 2 weeks. There is certainly a crisis in our community that we have to address. And we desperately need role models that doesn't focus on, say, wealth, house, material, family, etc., etc. Focuses on truthfulness. Focuses on honor and dignity. Focuses on noble conduct and moral well-being. This constant focus on material life is leading us to this crisis that we have to deal with. A few days ago, a few people came here regarding issue of family problems that we have. 45% of the marriage in our divorce rate in our community has reached 65%. 45% of this divorce is between younger generation, not older generation, that have been married 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, maximum. Why? Because we don't have orientation in our life. We don't have a clear understanding of what are we looking for. We are searching for identity, and then we settle for transient issue, materialistic life. He has few degrees from here, and tomorrow he would start a dentist practice that has six-figure sum during the year. That's a good candidate. Or she's going to become a doctor or a surgeon, that her income will be this. It's constantly income-driven. When I asked the couple that came a couple of days ago, after 2 weeks of marriage, I said, for God's sake, tell me what you saw in each other that disappeared within 2 weeks. They both bowed their head, said, material life. Soon we realized that it's not going to be the marriage that of love, affection, respect, and so on that we wanted. We were all searching for material. Another divorce case that both of them came here. They married 4 years ago in here, but they had known each other for 10 years before, so they have been married 14 years. They both came and decided that they wanted to get divorced. Why? I want to follow this line of business, he wants to follow that line of business. And still we try to talk to them, what happened to the ethics, morality, etc., that's supposed to be permanent issues that's supposed to be part of your relationship. And it just doesn't sink in. So under this circumstance, the presence of individuals or characters, unique characters like Khadija, like Fatima, like Zainab, like others in our history or before, becomes critical. When she is asked, what did you see in this orphan of Bani Hashim? She doesn't deny that he's orphan. I saw honor and dignity, more permanent character. They look at him as somehow poor. She looks at him as noble character and nobility. These are the characters that we have. Role models are to provide us with example, living examples that we should emulate. If these people, there was a marriage few weeks ago, the dowry went into millions. And I said, how much was the dowry of Fatima Zahra Salamun alayha? Amir al-Mu'mineen had to sell or rent or put as a trust somewhere, the dress that he had, that he would go and fight with it, to get, I think, 400 dirham, and to buy few items, linen items, few clay material. The rest of the money was spent on food to give to the poor and the needy. And there are pictures of these marriages and weddings, the $2 million, $3 million dowry. When you look around, you don't see a single poor person. Something has happened here. We really need to go back to the basic and look at these characters that we have to begin understanding that there are role models in our life if we want to imitate, both for our boys and our girls. Inshallah, their life will become a lesson to both, as I said, boys, girls, adult children, and so on. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our shortcomings, inshallah, and to hasten the return of our living Imam. And I was reminded today that as I asked everyone to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, please remember Marhum Allama Sheikh Shirri, because we really have, he has a huge debt on our community by struggling himself to succeed in creating the nucleus that we have here. So let's pray for his soul by reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Any questions? Go ahead. Can I give you the... You pull it up.
If you go to the doctors and you get a shot and they draw blood from you, does that break your fast?
Could you repeat the question again?
If you go to the doctors and they take a shot and you get blood drawn, does it break your fast?
The fasting with regard to break the fast. Well, it depends what kind of shot one gets from the doctor. If it is, the scholars say that if it is food-based and primarily injected in the vein, which straight away goes into the blood, then it does affect you. But if it is not food-based, it's a medication or something of that nature that's normally injected into the muscle, then they say it's okay. So the criteria is whether the content of the injection is food-based or anything to do with food or not. If not, most scholars say it would not negate your fast. It would not destroy your fast. So you have to ask what kind of shot it is. If it is a vitamin or something with that food issue, then it is problematic. Yeah. Well, let's see Brother Muhammad first, and then you. You can you? Yeah.
What if somebody does a flu shot? Does it affect the break fasting?
Flu shots. Flu shots? No. Flu shots are not considered to be anything which is food-based, and it's not considered somehow negating your fast. This is the views of almost all of them.
When Khadija alayhi salam offered her wealth and everything she had for the Prophet, my question is, how involved was she in Islam? Was she kind of the front and center kind of person along with the Prophet trying to help Islam grow, or was she more so the support structure that helped the Prophet along every step of the way?
Well, you have to understand, first of all, the context where this play takes place, in a sense. For a long period of time, there are only three individuals that constitute the nucleus of the Muslim community: the Holy Prophet, Ali, and Khadija. These are the only three. And during this short period of time, 1 or 2 years, or some people say 3, until he is commanded that focus on your family, so a step forward. Within that 3 years period, she was everywhere that the Holy Prophet was. It wasn't just a support, literally shoulder to shoulder. Ali was 10 years old or 11 years old, but Khadija was the one that stood shoulder to shoulder with the Holy Prophet, not only to protect him, which he needed her support and protection, but to give what we call credential because it's still a Jahiliyyah mindset. A figure like Khadija, with her background, with her wealth, and so on, creates the legitimacy that even the message by itself for this Jahiliyyah mindset may not accept. This is why the presence of such a figure, and as time went on, you can see this, major figures from the Jahiliyyah mindset, as they switch into Islam, the image of Islam becomes stronger, because now people can say, well, look at who's there. So it wasn't just an emotional tie that linked Khadija to the Holy Prophet. They were both in the same camp, and they worked as hard as possible for the betterment of, in some cases, when people came to attack the Holy Prophet, the presence of Khadija was enough to deter them. You have here, and then we have Brother Muhammad.
The relationship between Sayyida Khadija and Imam Ali alayhi salam.
Yes, there are, because if you look at the history of how Imam Ali, salawatullah salam Ali, ended up in the house of the Holy Prophet, historians claim that Hamza and Amir of the Holy Prophet and Abbas, these three, there was 1 year in the early part of the Holy Prophet's life, that drought became so strong in Mecca that Abu Talib, with having so many children and a large family, was struggling. So the Holy Prophet proposed to Abbas and Hamza that we will pick up one of the Abu Talib's children, lighten the load, we will look after them, so Abu Talib can at least have a small family. They came to Abu Talib. Abu Talib said, leave me Aqil, and then you can take me. Every story talks about it. She became the mother for Ali. Treated him with utmost respect. Never did anything, because not only she understood the love of the Prophet for his cousin, but she understood that something unique is developing here. And Khadija became respectful of that relationship and worked as hard as possible to support it. And then when Islam came and the way they acted and so on, then it became slightly, even there is an image of religion or something, but they all say Khadija became the mother to Ali as soon as the Holy Prophet brought him out of the family and brought him to his home.
There's these two verses in the Quran. I was just going to ask about what the correlation is and what the last part means. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna ja'alna ma 'ala al-ardi zinatan laha lanubluwahum ayyuhum ahsanu 'amala. And then he says, wa anna la ja'iluna ma 'alayha sa'idan juruza. What does sa'idan juruza mean? What's the correlation between these two?
Well, remember the relationship between the here and the hereafter. What these verses are trying to point out, do you have the verse?
It's
Let me see it. You see, we talked about this a couple of nights ago. There are two issues here: the here and the hereafter, the relationship between material life and the hereafter. From an Islamic point of view, or what we call Islamic worldview, this life is to be used for the here, permanence, and this is in this is the first. Which means whatever we have, all this glamour on earth that exists is a matter of test. For whoever is going to be mesmerized by it and shackled by it, or those who prefer to use it for the hereafter. Ultimately, وَإِنَّا لَجَعَلُونَ مَا عَلَيْهَا صَعِيدًا جُرُزًا. And if you look at the translation, and most surely we will make what is on it bare ground without heritage. Which means at the end, all this material life is going to be destroyed and vanished. Whether you use this as a metaphorical use of language, in a sense that if this is transient and you're going to leave them behind and you don't take them with you, or the end of time, which everything is going to be destroyed. What is left is literally bare nothing. But the focus point on the first verse, that this material life is, this earth, this material life, or the earth, is a place for being tested. We are being tested by it. Do we stick with it, and it becomes the goal, or it becomes the mean for the hereafter? Similar thing, inshallah, we will talk about in Najl Balagha. The Mu'mineen sallallahu alayhi wa sallam criticizes those that curse the material life, and he says you shouldn't do that. Material life is a mean by which how you use it will affect your direction or orientation. You use it for the hereafter, it's the best opportunity that you have. But it becomes the ultimate goal, then you fail. It's one of the two. It's similar kind of understanding that we repeatedly come across it in Najl Balagha. Don't say that inherently material world, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created as zina and glamour, is by the default it's to be rejected. No. They are there for a purpose. How you turn it around, whether it becomes the goal of your life, you work for the sake of this material life, then it becomes objectionable. Or you use it for the benefit of the hereafter, it's commendable. But in my mind, whether on a personal basis, nothing you will take with you, or at the end of time, the end of time, which is nothing that you see around you. Yes, Brother Muhammad. During the month of Ramadan, you pray to Allah, and in here you pray to Allah. Yes, there is, because an excellent point. Even when we go to heaven, the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to end. There are a number of verses and hadith that they talk about. Even in heaven, we can elevate ourselves. So it's not only for this relationship. Hereafter we can have some effects as well. Yes, concept of muttaqeen and the elevation of muttaqeen in the hereafter. I don't mind if that's agreeable to everyone. Sure. Thank you, Brother Muhammad. We brought a theme now. Inshallah. Yes. When we look at her life, particularly, I was interested to find out that what we call the academic discussion or meeting that she used to organize by inviting rabbis from Jewish community and ministers or Christian ministers to come and have conversation, and the conversation would naturally lead to one of the issues that they constantly discussed, the end of time, how the world is going to come to an end. Certainly there were discussion about the appearance of whether it is a Messiah or a new prophet, etc., depending on their Christian or Jewish understanding of things. But when it came to the Holy Prophet married Khadija about 15 years before the proclamation. He was 25. At that time, there was no such thing as even the notion of, at least for ordinary people. The Holy Prophet may have known about it or had intuition about it, but for ordinary people, there was no sign of the coming of the Holy Prophet, coming of a prophet from that community. So the relationship at early period, within the first 15 years at least, was normal but extremely intense, loving and caring relationship. The bondage was strong. When Islam came, she saw in the proclamation the promises that the other scholars, whether Jewish or Christian, remember her own uncle was one of the Christian scholars that she used to frequently have conversation with. And she saw the sign of that promises that other faith have talked about. With regard to why did she spend, because the early Islam needed the financial support that she had and she could give so that Islam picks up. One of the reasons why we are failing today is because that financial support that we need, despite the fact that there are a number of avenues for the contribution, the wealthy do not make any contribution, and we fall behind. Look at within, say, Muslims, now not just here, look at the amount of money that the Ismailis, they contribute to Aga Khan. A few days ago, the Imam, the Da'i of Bukhara, which is another group of Ismailis, went to Iraq. Huge amount of wealth they contributed. We have that wealth and we don't spend it, or we spend it for something else. Whether it's revolution, whether it's religion, at the early stage, before what we call shift in consciousness takes place, you need wealth to support it. There are people that would attract to the faith due to the fact that it can sustain them and look after them. Particularly the slaves that would run away from the Jahiliyyah structure, they needed financial support. And it was Khadija's wealth that provided it. And we see the same thing as migration takes place and they go to Medina. It was the wealthy individuals that were present in Medina that facilitated the smooth journey for the Muhajirun to come out of Mecca or anywhere else, because there was a secure place now they can go back to. Otherwise they were hesitant. When some of these wealthy individuals opened their houses, and I gave you the story of one of them at least that went to the mosque himself and then created the space for others to come. This notion that, yes, if you are inclined towards accepting this faith, rest assured that there will be a place for you at, in this new place and the bread on the table until the structure organizes itself. It was a huge contribution from it. And the Holy Prophet makes it clear. If it wasn't for the wealth of Khadija and the safe, the sword of Ali later on, Islam would not have gone as far as it went. In addition to, obviously, his love and relationship with Khadija as a wife and partner. Well, thank you very much. Inshallah, we meet again for tomorrow night. You want the topic next tomorrow?